All right, staff, a very good morning. Wishing you all a very healthy and happy life. And I hope you are already healthy and happy. Let's begin with today's topic. As you know, we have been starting our chapter number 4, that is chemical bonding and molecular structure, right? And we have discussed two on the chemical bonding, in which we have studied about the octet rule, which tells that the electrons should be 8 in the order of 8 for each kind of atom if they're combining to each other, right? And we have studied about the covalent bond also, and moreover, we have studied about some exceptions. Why does this why does this octet rule was denied? This was not further valid, right? And due to these reasons, we have abandoned that particular theory, and we need to discuss our next theory, that is Vesper theory. Okay. Before going to Vesper theory, we need to study some parameters. We need to study some important definitions which are crucial for us to understand the study of those type of bonds. बात समझ में आ रही है? I'm just saying, for understanding the Vesper theory, we need to study, we need to understand some definitions. Clear? Let's begin. First of all, is my ionic solids, or I would like to say the bond between the ions, right? So the point here is, what do you mean by the ionic solids and the bond? It's very simple. The most simple you have heard about this. First of all, the ionic bonds have been formed by two equations, by two standard parameters. First one says the ease with which my metal reduces electron, lose electron to become positive charged, or I would like to say cation, whereas metal gain the electron to make anion. Clear? And last but not the least, how much with ease these ions, that is anion and cation, combine with each other in three-dimensional structure, right? तो कहने का मतलब ये है, if I have to make a ionic solid, if I have to make a ionic compound, first of all, I must have two different type of substances. For example, one is a metal M, another one is, I would like to say, non-metal with X. Then the metal M should have the tendency to release an electron to become positively charged, yes or no. Same as it is, my non-metal should accept that electron, to become negative charge, that is anion. And second point says to us, this is first. Second point says to us, this metal positive and this X negative are combining to become ionic compound. This bond between metal and non-metal is known to be ionic bond. और ये बना कैसे है? When metal has lose an electron and when the non-metal has accept an electron. Clear? Now the point here is, we have understood about the scenarios कि ऐसे हमारा ionic compound बनता है. Moreover, ionic compound tells us that the tendency with which a metal lose an electron is known to be ionization energy. Bolo yes, we have studied about this in third chapter also. This is known to be ionization enthalpy. Quite good. Same as it is, the non-metal which is accepting the electron, that is known to be electron gain enthalpy. Definitely yes. Okay. Now, the electron gain enthalpy most of the time is found to be negative, whereas my ionization enthalpy, that means electron is losing, we have studied this in third chapter also, right? That is showing our positive charge, that is showing the positive value. Now the point here is how the ionic bond would be formed. The ionic bond would be easily formed if it has low ionization enthalpy and very, very high negative electron gain enthalpy. बात समझ में आ रही है? That means जितनी ज्यादा ease के साथ कोई मेटल इलेक्ट्रॉन को रिलीज करेगा, द इनिशियल एनर्जी वुड बी वेरी लो, मतलब उसके पास बहुत कम एनर्जी चाहिए टू रिलीज दैट इलेक्ट्रॉन, whereas the known metal is accepting that electron very quickly, that is electron gain enthalpy, right? So these are the compounds. This is my standard, I would like to say, condition by which my ionic bond is formed: low ionization energy and high electron gain enthalpy. Clear? All right. So now we have done about the ionic solid, we have done about the condition also. Now what we have observed, according to us, according to the scientists, that this must be the rule, right? This must be the rule how an ionic bond is formed. But what happens when we have studied some examples, when we have said some compounds, for example, sodium chloride, NaCl, Na positive, Cl negative. उन्होंने ये ऑब्जर्व किया that if my compound, it must release energy you know that very well. If a compound is said to be stable, that means it has the less energy. This you already know, बच्चे. If I'm saying my electron is something which has less energy, that means it can easily it is in the stable form, right? यही तो हुआ है. If there is high energy, my electron will start jumping to excited state. That means it is not stable. So if I say that my compound should be stable, that means it should release the energy. It should not have much energy. It should have less energy. Okay. So they should release energy. Releasing energy, that means energy should be negative. बिल्कुल सही है. We have studied that exothermic, that means releasing energy. In that case, my total energy is negative. ये बात हमने पहले yes or no? Definitely yes. कैसे? उन्होंने बोला कि उसे एनर्जी रिलीज करनी है, एनर्जी का सम टोटल नेगेटिव होना चाहिए, और वो कब हो सकता है? जब उसके अंदर आयनाइजेशन एनर्जी और इलेक्ट्रॉन गेन एंथैल्पी दोनों का सम नेगेटिव हो. Am I clear or not? Because this is what my ionic bond tells us. मैं इन दो कंडीशंस को आपस में कंबाइन कर रही हूँ. एक स्टेबिलिटी को, स्टेबिलिटी मीन्स releasing energy. Releasing energy means energy is negative. And second one, this sum should be negative. Clear? So this was my another condition, I can say. I'm just going to rub this. I hope you have got my point, what I want to tell you. If not, then please let me know after the completion of your class so that I can elaborate in another manner. I have told delta E, that means total energy, that should be negative. That means exothermic. Okay, delta E means sum of ionization enthalpy plus electron gain enthalpy should be negative to make a ionic compound stable. Okay, but this was my condition. But what happens when we take the example of sodium chloride or potassium chloride or many compounds? What they have shown, this sum of ionization energy plus electron gain enthalpy is positive, yet the compound is stable. बात समझ में आ रही है? Condition that should be negative, but the experiment has observed that these sums has come to be found to be positive, yet my compound is stable. So these are the two contradictions. So now the question arises, how can even it be possible? So the answer is lattice enthalpy. Answer is lattice enthalpy. It has been observed that even if the sum is positive, yet my compound is stable because it releases its energy in the form of lattice enthalpy. It loses its energy in the form of lattice enthalpy, which is much higher than this sum. So the overall energy is still negative and the compound is stable. Bachcha, am I clear or not, or should I repeat it again? There are two conditions which we have observed. This one is my theoretical condition and this one is my experimental condition. So the experimental and theoretical conditions are just contradictory to each other. They are just opposite to each other. So for removing that confusion, for solving that confusion, we have come to know that these compounds releases their energy in the form of lattice enthalpy. In form of lattice enthalpy, that means total energy is still negative. क्यों भाई? क्योंकि releasing energy is always in the form of negative. Whenever we say energy is releasing, energy is coming outside from the system, that means energy is negative. Okay, always. So overall energy is still negative and my compound is stable. Clear? That's why we have to study a new topic, what is lattice. इसीलिए हम नया टॉपिक स्टडी कर रहे हैं. Why do we need to study lattice enthalpy in terms of ionic compound? Clear? I was just talking about two difference between the lattice enthalpy, and I have told you all the conditions, and I have told you that's why we need to study lattice enthalpy. Cool. So our next topic of interest is lattice enthalpy. I hope you have got all the scenario. Why do we need to study lattice enthalpy, and what is this negative, positive, meaning the theoretical, experimental case? Clear? All right. So let's begin with the next topic, that is lattice enthalpy. Okay, so the lattice enthalpy of an ionic solid is the energy required to change its mole in the form of gaseous ion. दोबारा सुनिए, lattice enthalpy is that particular enthalpy which is required energy required to break down or convert 1 mole from the lattice into the gaseous state. First of all, so what is lattice over here? Lattice means a complete 3-dimension structure. That means when my sodium positive ion and when my chloride ions, they are getting combined to each other, they are mixing to each other, they are making a compound, they make a 3-dimensional structure. That board is complete a 3-dimensional structure, this whiteboard. This is a whole lattice. Now from this lattice, when my converting into the gaseous state, that is known to be lattice enthalpy. For example, एंथैल्पी इज 788 किलोजूल. इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब ये है the sodium chloride, the complete mole from the lattice, that is breaking down 2 different constituents, but in their gaseous form, that is known to be lattice. Clear? And why they are breaking down in the gaseous form? Because that would be easy for them to combine with each other. Clear? So this is my compound, this is my definition, which we have studied about the lattice enthalpy. And I hope you have studied why you need to study lattice enthalpy. Very important question, bache. The last topic which I have talked to you about the 2 different conditions, theoretical versus experimental. You have to understand why do we need to lattice enthalpy and what do we mean by lattice. Okay? Okay. So we have completed 2 terms, lattice enthalpy. Why do we need to study? Let's move to the next topic, that is bond parameters. Let's have another topic. Let's study about the bond parameters. First of all is the bond length. All right, the bond length is nothing, it's just the equilibrium distance between the nuclei of two bonded in a molecule. That means if I'm saying there is an equilibrium distance between the two nuclei of a bonded molecule. मतलब क्या है इसका? It means if we are taking two compounds or two moles and they are combined to each other, then suppose there is the nucleus over here. These are my atoms and these are the nucleus. Then the distance between these two nucleus is known to be bond length. Am I clear with it? I have told you that there are two types of atoms and they have the nucleus into it. These have two nucleus and the distance between the two nucleus is known to be bond length. Clear? So bond length can be easily observed only if there is a bond present between these two atoms. Okay, for example, ionic bond, for example, covalent bond, for example, van der Waals bond, and many more. Okay, now another point is, when we have heard about the bond length, it was quite difficult for us to understand the bond length. So we have to modify our concept with the help of radius. Matlab or radius, they are same to each other, but we have just given them in the different bond. For example, covalent radius. So what is covalent radius? Covalent radius is nothing. It just tells us that it is approximately, if I'm saying the same example, these compounds are made by the covalent bond and there is the distance. This is my known to be RA. This is known to be RB. You know very well, the distance from the center to the surface of a sphere is known to be radius. So we have two different radius over here, radius RA and radius RB. All right. So when we combine these two radius, that is known to be covalent radius of that atom or molecule. Am I clear with it? So if I'm talking about the suppose HCl, hydrogen fluoride molecule, that means H positive and Cl, this and this overall radius, this overall radius is known to be covalent radius. This is known to be covalent radius. Am I clear? Okay. So we have studied about the bond length, about the covalent radius also, but we know very well that there are many types of bonds present in our universe. Suppose covalent radius, the van der Waals radius, the ionic bond, and many more. Okay. So we have understood about the bond covalent radius. Same as it is, there is known to be a van der Waals bond, and the van der Waals bond tells us that this complete is van der Waals radius में हमें ये बताया है कि suppose we have two atoms combined, this complete is taken as one and this complete is taken as one. For example, H2, H2. This is hydrogen atom, this is hydrogen atom, this is hydrogen atom, this is hydrogen atom. Okay. So when two H2 atoms combine to each other with van der Waals radius, this is known to be van der Waals radius. That means suppose this is known to be van der Waals distance, and half of it is known to be van der Waals radius. Am I clear with me? So bond length is nothing. It is just the distance between the two nucleus which are combined with the bonded molecule. Okay. And we have different type of bonds. For example, covalent bond. For example, van der Waals bond. So for removing that confusion, we have replaced our bond length with the term covalent radius. ये कोई अलग चीज नहीं है, हम इसको इसलिए पढ़ रहे हैं क्योंकि हमारे पास डिफरेंट टाइप के बॉन्ड्स हैं. ओके. फॉर एग्जांपल कोवलेंट रेडियस, फॉर एग्जांपल van der Waals radius. Covalent radius is exactly same to the bond length, but the difference between van der Waals radius is there are two molecules combining each other. For example, H2 and H2. This distance between the whole nucleus is known to be van der Waals distance, and half of it is known to be van der Waals radius. I hope I have cleared the point to you. This was all about the bond length, or I would like to say van der Waals radius, or ionic radius, and many more. Okay. So after completion this, let's move to the next topic that is known to be bond length. We have done bond angle. Forming between two atoms is known to